Well, hi guys and gals, it's me George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, and we're back here on our old Kohler engine. And yeah, this is my, let's see, this is about my fourth try. I have used 3 different cameras, and the first set of videos, I had about 3 or 4 hours of video footage that I was going to edit down and give you an overview of tearing this engine apart and honing the cylinder and lapping the valves in and all that kind of good stuff. And the memory card got corrupted somehow, and I lost all of that footage. That was over the course of 3 or 4 days. Actually, I probably had more like 5 hours of video, and I was going to edit it down and make it so you didn't have to sit and listen to me hem and haw, and we would get a lot accomplished in a short amount of time. But here we are. That died. Then I brought another camera down. It wouldn't focus in properly at all, and it supposedly does 4K. Don't buy those cheap pieces of junk you see on Amazon for 130 bucks or whatever they are. They don't do what they're supposed to do. Very little zoom. Yeah. And then I brought my go-to camera back down again. Well, I have that one down here, plus I have my long-time Sony camera that I've used for probably 10 years, and that's what I'm recording this segment with right now. So we'll see. I have one camera set up over here on the tripod, and then the shaky cam in my hand. So let me give you a little bit of an overview of what's going on. I pulled the crankshaft out. I pulled the piston out. I think you saw all that. And I have honed the cylinder. I have lapped the valves. And here's a close-up of one of the valves. Let me get it over here in the light where you can see it better maybe. There's our exhaust valve. And here is our intake valve. And both of them have worked well. Your exhaust is the smaller one and the intake is the larger one. And one of the neat things about these old Kohlers is that the lifters on these things are adjustable. Unlike the Briggs & Stratton and the Tecumseh engines, they are just a solid lifter with no adjustment on the top. And so if you have to make an adjustment, you have to actually grind the end of the valve stem. So I'm glad for that. So I have the engine block is all cleaned, the primary cleaning. I actually have the oil pan is all painted. And I have some other parts over here that are cleaned but need to be finished cleaned. They're cleaned, but they haven't been stripped down. I'm going to wire brush them, and if I have to sandblast them, get them clean enough so I can paint them. And because we're going to make this engine look nice. When it's all done, it'll look like a new engine. So when it's time to install the crankshaft and so forth, I have marked the 2 timing marks. There's 2 different ones on here, and I'll explain them when we get to that point. And on the camshaft, there is a mark right there. I see I gotta put some more paint in that one, brighten it up a little bit. It's not really showing up really well. I used red paint marker and it didn't do it well enough. Anyway, and it might be interesting for you to note, this is the compression release set up here, and it is spring loaded. So See the springs on there? Yep. So that when you're first starting the engine, this actually will swing out, and the lifter will ride over it right here, and it'll hold that exhaust valve open just ever so, and enough to release the compression so you can get a couple of spins out of it, and then it'll fire, and once it gets going, then it collapses back down and it stays in, and your lifter just runs on the camshaft. So that's a good point for somebody to understand about. Occasionally these flyweights do break, or the spring on here will break, and it will allow it to keep flopping open, and it'll actually make you lose your compression. Another thing that's of note, and this is a problem that Ron Walsworth, Wally's Place 66, ran into. He got his engine all back together. He just fixed up one very similar to this one. His was a 14 horse, this is a 12, and his had some other differences, but he found out after he got it all together and got it running, he found it was making a crazy noise, and he found out that his governor gear, which is only plastic, got broken. So, and you see how that flyweight drops down? I gotta loosen this one up a little bit. It's sticking a little bit, but I'm sure if it's spinning fast enough, it'll fly down. I'll clean it anyway. But because that drops down like that, that's what helps to slow down or keep your engine from over revving. And if you look, you'll see the flapper back there. That flapper goes right against there. Then when that drops down, it pushes it back. So that flapper transfers up through this shaft, and then this arm here, and I am not sure that I have this on here right. I'd have to look back, I can't remember at the moment. But this arm anyway is the governor arm, and that goes on there, and that attaches to your throttle linkage on your carburetor and governs the speed, the top speed. So if you're building a racing engine, you would get rid of that gear down in there entirely so you get more revs out of it. Because if you're having a racing engine, you want higher RPMs. These engines are made for high torque, not so much high revolutions, and so we want to keep the governor in there for longevity. You can see the shaft sticking out the side here. That's the shaft that holds your camshaft in place. And the way you get your camshaft out, you have to actually drive that pin out that goes all the way through and drive it through. I've left it hanging out there because it's far enough out to get the camshaft out. So that's where that's at. I'm almost ready to start putting it back together. I have to put assembly lube on these. I'm going to probably use some red and tacky grease. I'll put it on these gears and on the cam lobes, and on the bearings in here, the bearing here, and you saw the bearing plate for the other side that mounts on this side over here, and that way everything will be properly oiled, and once the oil gets flying around in here, then it'll be lubed until it gets the oil. This is not a full pressure system. It uses instead a dipper like this on the end of the connecting rod that splashes the oil up. So that's how that works. So you can see all our parts: piston, connecting rod, rings, gaskets, spark plug, all that stuff. I think I showed you that before. So yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't get to show you all that stuff. Let me set the motor up and I can show you the hones. Now you can see how I have honed it down inside there. It has a pretty nice crosshatch in there. And yeah, that makes me happy. It does have a little bit of a ridge around the top, but not enough to affect anything. And you can see I have my surfaces already cleaned up. I'm going to have to wipe them all down again because I've been using oil on it. And I put oil on it to keep it from rusting while it's waiting on me. But all the machine surfaces have been cleaned off and are ready for reassembly. So that's our next process, is we'll start putting our valves in and make sure they're adjusted properly. And we'll put the piston in. And before we put the piston in, we're going to have to stick our rings down in there and check the end gap to make sure that they are properly set. Sometimes you have to file the ends if they're too tight. You don't want them to be closed up entirely. But we'll deal with all of that when we get there. Sorry that I haven't been posting. Like I said, I was working at getting this stuff ready to go and made video, and well, it just didn't work out. So till next time, this is George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, saying thanks for watching, for commenting, for subscribing. We'll see if this camera worked or not. And it's been cold out here. And I have another thought I've been thinking about. When we get back on the Goofy cart, this engine down here still has the transmission. That bottom part of that engine is transmission. I'm wondering if that transmission is any good. I know the motor's junk because they left the spark plugs out of it. But after we get done with these projects we're working on right now, we're going to get that engine in there and tear into it and see if we got a good transmission. That would give us a good 5-speed transmission that would be far superior to the lawnmower engine that we have in the Goofy cart now. It would be worth the try. And another investigation I have to do is, I'm not sure if it's this transmission. I'm thinking it might be, because it's all straight cut gears, or if it's my right angle gearbox that is making so much noise. So those are some of the things we're going to investigate when we come back. And I'm still hunting, hoping to find a V-twin motor to go in here. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. Alright, no more babbling. I'm just carrying on. Thanks for watching, and I said all that good stuff already. Till next time, bye for now.